You're listening to Just a Couple of Jerks with me, Paul Winstanley. This week we've got Aaron Czechowski from the Microsoft Endpoint Manager product group. We chat about how Aaron took himself across the States to work with Microsoft in Redmond. He's loving it there. I think that's a job for life for him. We have a good old chat about Aaron's interests. He's heavily involved in the scouting movement in the States, and how when he came over to the UK, he wanted to visit Gilwell Park, the sort of founding area for the Scouts of the UK. No one was really too concerned that he'd done this pilgrimage. Yep, here's a map. Go have a look. We talk about our interest in music, and we have a little chat about the most embarrassing record in our music collections. Enjoy this week's Just a Couple of Jerks.
Yeah, I got a guy who's in the Raspberry Pi community the other day, and I said to him, because this is all about, the Pis, you can use the pins to flashlights and all this kind of cool thing. And I said to him, I should really build one of those on-air things for the top of the door.
Yeah.
Start getting pro with this,
So there's a woman in the Twitter community whose name is Kale. I don't know if you follow her, if you've seen her on Twitter. She posted a link to a device that she got. I think she got it just from Amazon. But it's just a simple LED disc, basically, and a little remote controller. You can set all sorts of different color combinations on it, and so she uses that on her desk as just a simple way to show status, right? So her family knows that, like, oh, you're actually on a call. Or I think I also saw someone did something with some LED lights on the staircase, like up to their office, so people can see, oh, the staircase is red, they're on a call right now.
Yeah.
So
Well, we have
cool
that. Definitely, we have that infamous interview, don't we, from a year or two back with the BBC, with a guy and his wife, and the kids come in, and she has to drag the kids out of the room. So we're trying to avoid those moments. Oh yeah, it was quite embarrassing, really, for the guy, and he's kind of, you can imagine him. Well, if it was me, I'd be like, oh my god. But he was trying to push them away behind him, and she kind of crawls in as if to kind of duck in to not get on the camera, but you can see everything. And she just scoops the kids and drags them back out the room.
Wow,
it's pretty cool.
I was talking to somebody last week who said he had an instance years ago where the space I guess he was using their bedroom as his office, and he was on a call and he was talking, and his wife came in, and I guess she didn't know that video was on, so she like stripped down to change for a shower or something, and he said, like, the way that the conversation went, he didn't think anyone noticed it, or at least they didn't say anything about it, but she was not happy.
Yeah.
So had some changes in rules around the house after that.
Definitely. So we have to be careful. We have to be careful.
Right.
But no, I've been doing these podcasts. I've created a backlog now, which is great. And I've been having a real blast with them. We've had a real laugh, but there's been a couple of moments like that where I've had to just chop. In fact, I was listening back to my own podcast today when I was bored, and with Amy Ardwood, Mark, and there's one bit where she's chatting, but I suddenly hear a clump, 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 and it's someone going up and down my stairs. And I'm thinking, I should have maybe edited that out.
Add some ambiance.
Cool. Yeah, I'm not a pro at this. I'm just having a laugh, really. That's the main thing.
Yeah, excellent.
That's what it's all about. I don't know if you've listened to any.
I haven't had a chance to yet.
But
no.
No, no, no. I can tell with the stats. No, I've been quite surprised with people listening actually, and it really is just having a ball really, and just kind of chatting away. So
Yeah.
there's no real pressure to really think about anything. I do very very little in the way of prep for this. In fact, zero. So
True. No, I mean
well,
sometimes the off the cuff is the better way to do it.
it's brilliant. I mean, we've been I've been talking to people. Phil Wilcox
Uh-huh.
from Two Pints
Yep.
the other day. We talked about pig farming. Amy was horses.
Uh-huh.
It's just whatever really.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
I kind of think about
It's
it
pretty cool.
like I don't know. It's like sitting down with someone and just having a cup of coffee and chatting, or going to the bar at happy hour or something like that, right? Like,
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly. And I think so. So the idea is so. What I'll do. Hello, Aaron Czechowski. Well, so I'll kind of do an intro like that, and I'm doing it now. So, Aaron, thanks ever so much for joining the Just a Couple of Jerks podcast
Woohoo. Yeah,
for
absolutely.
today. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
So the idea is that I called it Just a Couple of Jerks. It was a discussion that me and Adam Gross had after the first recording because I didn't have a title at all.
Yeah.
And we were thinking, what is it? And it was really about we have this thing of the rock stars in the community and things, and it was about really we're just regular
Right.
people,
Yeah. Yeah.
and just chatting away, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Just regular people chatting, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've walked into situations where you feel you're kind of this pop star type person, just purely by being visible in the community, and it's quite
Yeah.
strange and humbling, but kind of like it's okay, I'm
Right.
fine, Don't get the red carpet out. And sometimes I'll take the mic and I'll go, yeah, come on, where is that red carpet? But yeah, it's just about having a chat. So,
Yeah. Like,
so yeah, thank.
sorry, I was just going to say, like, going to MMS. I think that's one of the cool. And I don't have you haven't had a chance to make it to one, or maybe in the
No,
past.
and I was due for July. I've had to pull out.
Oh, nuts. Okay.
To be honest, I don't even think we'll be allowed to travel to the
Yeah,
States by July.
I know. Yeah, that's a whole other topic. Um,
Yeah.
but that's one of the cool things about that group, or I mean, even just some of the user groups. I've been to the one here in that they have in Bellevue that Greg Ramsey and other guys run, and yeah, it's just kind of I think it's a great kind of democratizing event, to just even things, the bigger ones like Ignite. It's you're still, some of the speakers are still, they're still up on the stage, and there's not as much time for socialization and stuff. So I think those moments of being able to socialize with people, and certainly a lot harder to do today, but the technology fortunately is there, to be able to enable these sorts of things. So just take advantage
Yeah.
of it as much as
I
you
mean,
can.
definitely. I mean, the summit is another one of those where,
Yeah.
it's but the problem with that is, and now MMS, I was really looking forward to that because it's different to the summit.
Right.
Even though I have never been, I can see that.
Yeah.
Um, it's very much we have a session at the summit and then we move on to the next one,
Right.
and there's a few minutes in between, so we don't really interact with you in the same way that probably we would at MMS.
Right. Yeah.
Is that right? Would you?
Yeah, because like at the conference, and one of the cool things with MMS, especially, well, I mean, really any of them, you're all at the hotel. The conference is there. Certainly in Minneapolis, like, yeah, there's the mall, but it's a mall, right? Like, there's only so much time
Mm.
you can spend walking around a mall, and there's some other stuff.
Yeah.
If you go outside, yeah, there's some things, but I rarely go outside when we're in Minneapolis, and just walking between sessions, and afterwards, and at meals. If you go to a local restaurant in the mall, or even just the one there in the hotel, there's always folks around. There's always a conversation to be had, and whether it's work related or not,
Yeah.
just hanging out. And yeah, I think at the MVP summit, there are some social opportunities that are created. Um, I I haven't I've never been on the other side of it. I guess my understanding is that there is some socialization that happens in the evenings at the hotel and such, but um,
Yeah, so for that, so this year would have been my first year in the Hyatt.
oh yeah,
Um, yeah, so previously I was down at the Sheraton and the Hilton,
uh
but I kind of like that as well. So I like to go in, socialize a bit, have a chat, and then disappear
be
from
able
all
to,
that at the end of
yeah,
the night.
right,
Yeah, retreat a little
uh-huh.
bit, get my own space. At the
Yeah,
same time, so MMS was going to be very different,
right,
and yeah, I was looking forward to it. But circumstances
yeah,
change, and
yeah. No, I think
you know,
that's, change is really and adaptability, I think, are some of the big words right now, right? Like, I did a session at MMS a couple years on change and like how to not just I think it was even called leading change. That it's not just being able to handle change and accept change, but really how to make the best of it and how to adapt and grow out of that. And I mean, current situation is exactly case in point, right? It's like, hey, you know what? There's things that are happening that are outside of your control. So what are you going to do about it? Are you gonna are you gonna fight it and complain and count the? I see people. There's some friends of mine on Facebook are counting days, right? They'll be like, oh, it's day X of quarantine. I'm like, not sure that's really the best way to approach it.
no,
Um,
gosh,
you just
that would just increase your own personal anxieties, surely.
Yeah, right, right. Well, it's like you're in a
With that
prison and you're
approach,
you know you're etching the mark on the
yeah.
wall.
Yeah. Oh no, no, that's not the right way. But everyone, each to their own, isn't it?
Oh,
Really.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, for Microsoft, then they were
Yeah.
very quick to react. Now, the thing was that the summit changed to a virtual.
Right.
Um, we got that comms through, and we were like, okay. So my initial thing, not knowing anything around what was happening in Kirkland, is that right? Kirkland,
Yeah. Right. Kirkland. Uh huh.
Kirkwood,
Yeah. Kirkland. Yeah.
Kirkland, yeah. Was so that was an epicenter, wasn't it? There
Right.
was a care home or
Yep.
something. I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
it
Hmm.
was quite big where a lot of people died.
Yeah.
Um, and I had a conversation with Bill from Adaptiva,
Hmm.
um, formerly of Adaptiva, sorry, around just should I come over
Right.
and is because I was thinking, well, I've got the tickets.
Yep.
Um, make a break of it, And he was like,
Yeah.
"Well, it's kind of not, yeah, And he kind of informed me, and I know Kathy Moyer
Hmm.
throughout some conversation there as well, saying, you're all welcome to come over, but you may not get back.
Right. Yeah.
So it's like, okay, fair enough. And then sort of realizing the full extent of it, and obviously then Microsoft were very quick
Yeah.
to, or seem to be very quick to change and to adapt to that situation. So
Yeah.
you've been in kind of well, home working rather than lockdown, although you're in both,
Right.
home working for a little while now.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
when exactly did that happen then?
Um. Gosh, it's been at least a month, if not more. I think it was. And maybe it's been a month and a half. Um,
Yeah,
It's
easy,
been a
I would
while.
say.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to open up my mail and go look back to see when that was. But yeah, it might have
You knew
been.
the notches on the bed
Yeah,
to
right,
work
right.
it
I'm not
out.
counting, so I couldn't
No,
tell you. Like, it might have been end of February.
I'd say it's around that
It's
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Anyways, yeah. I mean, they kind of went to it was kind of a phased approach in many respects, and I don't know if that was
Hmm.
purposeful or if that was just kind of how it came about. But really, kind of as soon as there were some mutterings of, hey, yeah, um, we think we might want people to start working from home. It's an option if you want to take it. Um, I kind of saw the writing on the wall, and so I was like, yeah, okay, let's make this happen. So um, made a trip into the office one day basically just looted is not the right word to use. That has a bad
Grabbed
connotation.
everything.
But yeah, I brought a bag and I just filled it up with stuff that I either knew that I needed, like external keyboard and mouse and docking station and headset. Um, that was kind of but then even just some small things that like I have at my desk that are kind of personal, that just kind of things I have at my work desk, right? And then and then I'll be bad and I guess record myself saying this. I took my office chair. Um, we were we were later told that
What?
we weren't supposed to take our chairs, but
Okay.
yeah,
We'll edit this out.
at the time, and I was good. I was good. I emailed our admin and I emailed my manager and I said, hey, I'm taking my
Mm.
chair. I didn't ask. I just informed. Um, but it's an ergonomic chair, and I've been to our ergonomic
Right.
center a bunch. So I was like, if I can't get my ergonomic chair, I'm not going to be able to work from home. So that was my
No. No.
justification, But then, yeah,
That makes total sense. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I borrowed my son's desk and kind of retrofitted it for the space, and am fortunate enough to have some external monitors and just kind of have built myself a space. And then and then the other thing that I really did too as part of this was um, set things up. Uh, Set up my schedule in a way that was still very consistent. So I still get up at the same time. I have a morning routine that I go through in terms of food, and I do a workout and shower and that sort of thing. And I've tried to keep that as consistent as possible. I still get dressed as if I'm going for work, um, and and then I'll pop down throughout the day and refill water, get a another cup of tea, or do meals and stuff. But for the most part, I've really kind of kept a consistent schedule, and I think that's been helpful as well. Now,
That helps mentally, doesn't it?
oh, absolutely, yeah. I think it's a mental thing of being able to sort of transition into work mode and have that rhythm that you're used to. So much so that I've tried to get my kids to do the same with their schoolwork. Hasn't
Okay.
hasn't been quite as successful, but
No, no.
uh,
Not quite as disciplined.
yeah,
Um,
well, yeah, um,
I mean, I spoke to Harjit a while back, and
yeah,
he
yeah,
was saying he has this space in the house. He did used to kind of slob around on the sofa,
right,
um, but with the home working situation, it's okay. Now I'm going to have this little space,
hmm
and so at the end of the day, I'm going to take myself away from that
right,
space, and I'm going to
exactly,
stop working. Yeah.
yeah,
And I said, okay, I need to get off the sofa.
yeah,
I've got the computer desk at the back of the living room, and I
hmm
should really sit there.
yeah,
But I have problems with whiplash
okay,
on my neck.
yeah,
So from a push bike cycling accident
uh-huh.
years ago, and so I need to get a chair. So I'd have been like yourself. I'd have
Right,
gone, okay, let me borrow that chair
yep,
because I'm going to be in agony.
yeah,
And that's the main reason why I don't sit at the desk. So I'm
sure,
I'm slouched on the. It's probably really bad posture for my whole back and everything. I'm on the sofa
yes,
and I'm tapping away, but there's less pain at the
okay,
moment
yeah,
by doing that. But then on the evening, I'm sat there. I could be,
sure,
and
sure,
I'm still tapping away. So it feels like and I just go, oh,
yeah,
I need to give up on all this. I need to have a break or something. It
yeah,
just feels like you're constantly doing it. Or
right,
come away from the screen.
right,
The computer screen
yeah,
drives me mad at times.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, I get, I was just talking to one of my coworkers, Megan, just before this, and very much kind of a similar thing of like, we're fortunate that our team, like our organization that we work in, has been really supportive in this time, and I mean, really, our whole company, right? It's all the way up the chain, in terms of, you know, take time for yourself, take time for your family, like, um, and I mean, just even last week, there was one day last week where I got up in the morning and I was just I don't know, it felt like the weight of the world on you, just thinking through all the stuff with the kids' schooling and health and other family members in the area, and just worrying about all sorts of stuff. And so I didn't go through my same routine, but I was like, you know what, I need to break this. And so just I went out for a long walk, and uh, just as a way to kind of get away for a bit, clear my head, get some exercise,
Clear your
get some
head.
fresh
Yeah.
air.
Yeah.
Um,
Mhm.
and yeah, that meant that I wasn't logged on at my usual time. I didn't log on until half hour later than I usually do. But in the grand scheme of things, based upon a lot of the communication that we're getting from folks in our organization, it's that's okay, right? If you need to take that time, take that time.
Totally.
So it's been a
Totally.
lot
Yeah.
more acceptable of kind of fixing and stuff. But at the same time, I've been trying to be consistent. And to your point, you were saying, I think it also helps that I've got my kind of my office set up, and I'm fortunate that we have the space where it's kind of separate from other things, and that at the quote unquote end of the day, I can put the computers to sleep and turn off the monitors and walk away, and leave it, right, and have that
And you have
disconnect
to.
for be able to disconnect for a couple of
Totally.
hours and not work.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, my problem is I've got too many kids and not enough rooms.
Yeah.
So I have 4 children.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so 3 of them are here.
Okay.
One's away at university,
Yeah.
hasn't come back
Oh wow.
yet.
Okay.
But and then he was ill a little bit
Uh-huh.
when we thought, oh, okay, do you have
Right.
the virus? But it made sense for him to stay there. So he's in the
Okay.
north of England,
Mhm.
away from the epicenter. We're in London,
Mhm.
so we're right in the heart of it.
Yeah.
Stay where you are, really. And then we look after my brother-in-law who has Down syndrome as well. So it's a packed house.
Yeah. Wow.
Finding a space to your own personal space. The kids have
Right.
got their own rooms. They're just locked in their internet all day.
Yeah.
That's the thing. They're happy. But grab a space where you can. But my thing, like I say, I'm just sat on the sofa and I need to walk away from that maybe. And um, but I've been doing so. I don't know what the situation is in the States. So in the UK, we're allowed to go out once a day for exercise.
Oh, okay.
And we're allowed to go out once a day, or as infrequently as possible to do shopping,
Yeah.
or a medicine run or something like that. So
Right.
my thing has been grabbing the bike,
Mhm.
which I hadn't really been on for a year,
Mhm.
and just doing 10 miles, 20 miles, whatever.
Right.
Well, not 20 quite. I haven't really got back to that yet. Um, Almost, but little things like that, and
Yeah.
then just going for a little medicine run the last few days,
Sure.
just down to the local pharmacy,
Yeah.
which is, it's a good half an hour each way walk,
Okay. Mhm.
which normally you jump in the car,
Right.
you'd be
Yeah.
there in minutes,
Yeah.
and I thought, we've got the sun's out,
Yeah.
perfect opportunity
Nice.
to just do that walk, put on the headphones, listen to a bit of music, which is an interesting thing doing it though. You're walking down the road and you move away from everyone, which you want to have that 2 meter
Yep.
space, and then you'll get some guy who's jogging, just come run past you,
Yeah.
almost touching you, and I'm there silently shaking my head, going,
Right.
"No, mate,
Yeah.
you're not following the rules." And
Yeah.
I don't know what the situation is in the States. Is it similar? Do you have lockdowns like that? So
You,
you went and did your walk.
yeah. I think it vary. It's going to vary depending upon who you talk to. There's been a little bit of overarching federal guidance, but really most of it comes down to state guidance. And so in Washington, we've got uh, what's called stay at home orders, and a lot of things are closed down. So a lot of parks and only essential businesses are allowed to open, and there's also then all sorts of question of, okay, well, what's essential, what's not essential, and there's some
Yeah,
odd
yeah.
odd interpretations of that. But
Decisions.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
but there's not anything quite as extreme as what it sounds like you're experiencing. I've heard instances of people getting pulled over by the police because they're out in their car, and if they don't have paperwork to show that they're going to work or something like and that they're essential, then they could be fined. But yeah, out walking around our neighborhood, there's others that are out, and I guess personally I think about it in terms of stay home doesn't mean stay in your house. It means stay in your neighborhood. Stay in your home, right? This town is my home, so I'm going to stay in my home. Um, we still go out to eat, which is all just takeout. We do that, I don't know, 2 or 3 times a week. We'll go to some of our local restaurants that we like, and just to support them as best as we can. And
Okay, so are they still all open then, but takeaway only? So
most,
they just do that?
they're all takeaway only. And they're getting really good now about um, hand sanitizer when you come in, and a lot of them have glass or plexiglass partitions up, and they'll wipe down your credit card for you, if they even need to touch it. So yeah, it depends upon the business, but they're kind of adapting and figuring out the best ways to handle stuff and process stuff. So
Sure. Well, that's interesting
yeah,
how it's different wherever we are in the world.
no, yeah,
So parks, we can go to parks,
hmm
and yet when we do, because we've had nice weather over the
right,
Easter holiday,
yeah,
you go in there and there's groups of people, and you
oh,
go, well, this isn't right. It's not. We shouldn't be doing that, and
right,
so they disperse people or whatever, and
yeah,
then you go, okay, so maybe we should be closing the parks
right,
and closing places wherever people would gather.
right,
Um, so it's interesting, and there is no real right perfect solution for all this. It's just
yeah,
reducing the mess,
right,
isn't it? Really,
yeah,
just cutting down the deaths.
yeah, exactly. Trying to do our best, and
Yeah,
we're at the point now where I think things are starting to level off here, at least in Washington, from what I've heard. So then there's the inevitable, like, oh great, so we can go back, we can go back to normal now, right? And I know people are being really, I think they're being uh, cautious appropriately, and waiting, to kind of continue. Um, and I think even, I don't know, my personal opinion is that this is the new normal. And again, like I was saying earlier, right, with like counting the days, like that's not the right mentality, because I don't think we're going to go back to the way life used to be. I think things have to change, and I think this will be a forcing function for a lot of that. So even just as simple, my wife and I were talking the other day, like, will people still shake hands? Is that, in cultures where
yeah,
that's a norm for meeting someone new, or seeing someone you haven't seen for a long time, right? Is that going to go
yeah.
away? Will there be increases in things like agoraphobia, right, which is the fear of the outdoors, or certainly I'm not sure there's an official name for it, but like germophobia, right, of people who are really afraid to touch things, and they're constantly washing their hands or hand sanitizers and stuff. Is that going to increase just because we're going through this period of heightened awareness, and is that going to become a more common trend now, going forward? So I
No,
don't
I
know.
agree. It definitely, because this isn't going to go away
Yeah,
quickly,
right,
and there hasn't been a vaccine for any
right,
coronavirus previously.
right, yeah,
So where we kind of go, okay, well, there'll be a vaccine in 18 months. Maybe not.
right,
Probably not.
right, right,
So how do you defeat this?
right.
Yeah, it's
And not let, I'm sure it's the case all over the world, is your small businesses that are closed right now because they're not essential, but
mm,
that's how these people are making money, and that's their livelihood. So are they just supposed to not work for 18 months? That doesn't, that doesn't
mm,
that doesn't work.
mm.
um,
Yeah,
we're fortunate enough that our jobs can continue, online, and we can still still support our customers and still have revenue streams based upon technology that continues. But it's not a lot of the world works that way. Um,
Yeah, I
so
mean, to be honest, I mean, I've been impacted by this.
have you?
So
Yeah.
working with different customers, that their first concern has been business continuity.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and that was the initial thing. Get that in place. We need
Yep.
to keep things running. So I'm working on config manager implementations or Windows 10 stuff.
Hmm.
Not as important immediately.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So some
Right.
of those, some of those projects put on hold.
Right.
Um, one particular customer change freeze.
Hmm.
Okay, we can't touch anything. So,
Yeah.
but how long can you do
Right.
that for?
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, you've got to come out of that eventually. But
Right.
the thing is, it's all around again business continuity.
Right.
Don't impact the people because if they're at home and they have a problem, how do you get things out to them?
Right. Exactly.
Um,
Yeah.
and I had a good conversation with a chap called Chris Roberts, who in the
Oh
UK
yeah. Yeah.
works
Yeah. I
for
know Chris.
SAP.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Chris. Yeah,
Good guy.
so he's going to be on the podcast.
Awesome.
We chat. Well, we've done the recording. He's a good guy. He likes a good chat and a good conversation.
Uh-huh.
And he talked about how they had this hard sell of autopilot and
Yeah.
things like that. Initially with the business, but now it's like fully embraced because they've got. He was saying like 200 new starters every week
Yeah.
still.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they can get kit out to them,
Yep.
and it's provisioned with the autopilot. The policies are coming down, the users logged in,
Yep.
job done, and it's like
Right.
okay, we can change the way that we work.
Yeah.
But it depends on the business, and
Sure.
so I've had a few things that they're just on hold and haven't been working. So even in the IT world, it doesn't run smoothly. So
Sure.
you kind of go, I'm not in the position like cafe owners and
Right.
people who work in the theatre and things like
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
That's a real issue. But we change, we adapt, and it'd be interesting to see how the businesses that have adopted these kind of change freezes, how they come out of that.
Yeah. Exactly.
Um,
Right.
because they're going to take again. It's like coming out of the lockdown, small steps
Yep.
to suddenly reintroduce things because there's a fear of this could go wrong and we
Exactly.
could impact our populace that are now out in the field, out remote, and how do we support that and all this? So
Yeah.
interesting for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is long term, like you say. So best not to have the notches in the bed because that would drive you insane, wouldn't it?
Right.
It would
Exactly.
me
Yeah. I mean, it's
anyway.
going to get to a point where it's just like, it's just overwhelming, so I've kind of taken the mentality of just turning the page and okay, this is the new normal, right? This is business as usual.
Yeah,
So let's make the best of it and roll with what's to come, right? And just accept that like
definitely.
this isn't the end of change, right? It's gonna keep happening, and so you've got to be adaptable and willing to flex and adjust as necessary.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've been with Microsoft a while now, I believe, Aaron. Is that
I
right?
started in the spring of 2007. So I just recently hit my 13 years with the company.
Okay.
Yeah.
And was that uh, a shift in career, or was it a progression from a previous role when you stepped
Progression.
through the
Yeah,
doors?
progression. So
Hmm.
I started my career. I'll give you the whole history. How about I graduated college in 1998 and got a job as a desktop uh, support tech at a university outside of Baltimore, Maryland, which is just north of Washington D.C. A university there called Towson University. It's a public university, as part of the state system. And so started there as a desktop tech, and was wearing a tie and going around campus, going into professors' offices and staff offices and helping them with their problems that the help desk couldn't help over the phone. And did that for a number of years, and then kind of got more involved into some automation aspects, and like, hey, how can we help ourselves? And was doing some scripting and doing some some automated installs, and then moved into imaging. And at the same time, we had a team that was building up SMS. I think they started with SMS 1.2, so that was my first interaction with that. And then as things progressed, I was getting more and more involved with that. So then I kind of changed, still at the university, into a server admin role, but focused on desktops. So was running config manager. Well, I guess it was still, at the time, it was still SMS, and that was really my full-time job, was just managing SMS. And then got to a point there where I was like, all right, you know what, my career kind of needs something different. And so I talked to some folks there about options, and just wasn't really into the options that I had available there, for how I wanted to grow my career. And so I got a job with a small consulting company in the area, and continued work as a config manager consultant. I guess, sorry, still SMS consultant at the time, and did that for about a year. And then the contract I was on dried up, and we couldn't find another thing. And then right about the same time as I was starting to look for other work, I had had my resume out on all sorts of sites, and got contacted by Microsoft to join their consulting wing. And so
Okay.
that was in '07. Started with Microsoft as a consultant, meaning part of Microsoft Consulting Services, so full time employee, but
Yeah.
as
Yeah.
a
MCS.
consultant.
Yeah.
Yeah, MCS, right. And that was specifically with U.S. government. So we were part of the group that was focused on U.S. government. Um, did that for 5 years, and got to the point with that where I had kind of burned out, obviously, honestly, I should say. And again, it was at the point where I was like, I'm not really sure from a career growth perspective if what consulting had to offer there in the area was really what I wanted. And I remember I was actually having dinner with my family one night. We were out to eat at one of our local favorites, and was kind of talking about this with my wife, and she was like, "Well, what about Redmond?" I was like, "Well, what about it? You know, our family's here. You know, she'd grown up in the area. Her whole family was there." She's like, "Well, why don't you
Right.
look at jobs out in Redmond?" And it just kind of opened a door that I didn't know existed, because I didn't think that was an option at the time. And so
So
then,
was that more around that thought was more around shifting? I wouldn't do Redmond because I'd have to shift everyone.
right, exactly, yeah,
Or
knowing that,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
we'd have to move. At the time, we had two young
mm,
kids and dogs, and again, her whole family was there, so we had this whole support system
yeah.
in place. um, and being 3,000 miles away on the other side of the country was daunting. And
That's a big thing. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, after college, she actually lived for about a year in Denver, Colorado, and decided not to remain there because, in some respects, she missed her family on the East Coast. And there were some other factors, but that was part of it. So I was a little worried that, like, okay, well, if we move over to the West Coast, is that gonna be a problem? Fortunately, we've been here now. We moved here in 2012, so we've been here for 8 years, and yeah, we love it. It's a great climate and great people, and great, yeah. Um, just love all sorts of aspects about it. And the nice thing of being with Microsoft out here is there's just tons of options. So I started as a PM, and kind of worked my way up through that, and then this opportunity with the docs team came up, and honestly, it's something that had kind of been a goal of mine, or maybe a dream for many years. I'd been interested in writing
Yeah.
for a long time, and um, being able to write for the product that I'd know and love and have worked with for many years was a great opportunity. So
Became a bit of a perfect match.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was just kind of the right place, the right
Mm,
time, perfect timing. But the cool thing about being about working for Microsoft, and specifically working, I mean, it holds true across the whole company, I think, but especially in Redmond, where there are so many opportunities, and so it's not uncommon to see people switch between teams or switch between roles, and just because there's a lot of options available. So yeah, I'm definitely I think I'm definitely a what's the term, a company man, kind of
Yeah,
bleed
yeah,
bleed
yeah.
blue, and it's hard to imagine if I were to change jobs again. It's hard to imagine leaving Microsoft. They've been
Yeah,
good to me over the
yeah.
years, and I'm really happy with where the company is and where it's going. So um,
And they got cool chairs you can take home with you as well.
exactly, yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. So going back to that move then.
Yeah.
So I mean, your kids were they at school age at the time,
Yeah,
or were they
so
preschool?
and
Yeah.
I don't know how this will translate with UK system, but and I don't remember the exact ages either. But my son was there, so they're both in elementary school, which is the first kind of 5 years of schooling. Um,
Okay. Yeah.
and
Primary, we call it. Yeah.
okay, yeah, and so my son was I guess going into his last year of that, so his fifth grade, and my daughter would have been going into third grade. Um,
Okay.
and so that was kind of part of what we talked about. It was, hey, is this because we even before we had kids, well, as we started having kids, we had talked about, like, not wanting to move them, and wanting to have a very stable environment, um,
Mm,
and so this kind of put a monkey wrench in it, because they were like, well, we're going to move them,
yeah.
and but the thought is like, hey, this is an okay time to do that, because they're still kind of young, and um, they've got friends here, but they're young enough that they can adapt. It's easier for them to adapt at
Yeah.
this age. So
It's always an unknown though, isn't it? Because my daughter, we moved her from her primary elementary school
right. Hmm.
in that fifth year as well. So she moved at the start of that fifth year, um,
Uh-huh.
and you just don't know
Right.
how
Yeah.
they're going to fit. And we're not moving them 3,000 miles across the country. We're just
Right.
moving it from one school to another, a couple of miles down the road.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, you're not only just doing that, you're shifting yourselves as
Hmm.
well
Yeah.
in the mix. You're moving away from your wife's family.
Yep.
So you're losing that, uh, what should I say, the ability for them to be nannies,
Right. Yeah.
sort
Yeah.
of thing,
Exactly. Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yep.
And you don't have that anymore.
Yep.
You move into an area where you're on your own.
Yep.
So it's a huge thing. And my assumption would be that you knew people in Microsoft at Redmond because you were working with
Not
MCS.
really.
Maybe
No.
you knew net. Okay, so
I
it
mean,
completely
yeah,
changed.
certainly there were some folks that we knew here, but none that were close enough that, you know,
For socializing or anything.
yeah,
Yeah.
or even to be like, hey, can you watch the kids for, a couple hours? Nothing,
Oh yeah, yeah,
nothing that close. So yeah, it definitely was totally new ground for us, um, but it also created an opportunity for us to, not to say that we needed to kind of start over, but kind of break out of our routines, and hey, we need to be more social. We need to make friends, and so and that really happened through stuff with our kids' schools. Both of the kids, well, that was mostly my my son and I have both been doing scouting for many years, and so that also provided a good opportunity to meet people, um, and have some interactions outside of school, outside of work, that then help form some relationships. So we had other
yeah.
ways,
Because
right? Of
I was going to ask you about that because that's one of your interests, isn't it?
yeah, yeah. Um,
The scouting side. So you've been involved in that for a while, yeah.
Yeah, I did it as a kid for just for a couple years. Wasn't didn't progress very far in the program as a kid. Got interested in other things as I got into my teenage years. But yeah, when my son, we got him started pretty early. It was something that I always admired the program and wanted to get him involved with it and wanted to be involved myself. So we started that when we were in Maryland, and then when we moved out here, we just continued with it, and it's been good for him. He's got some learning disabilities and some other special needs, and so it's been good. He's good in a group, right? It's part of a pack kind of mentality. So it's a great environment for him to kind of be a part of that group, and it's been great for me. Met a lot of great people and good friends, and have learned a lot. Both the program here, well, really, I mean, the program all over. There's a lot of good outdoor stuff, but also a lot of good life skills and a lot of leadership opportunities and good training for all sorts of stuff. So yeah, it's a great program. I'm a big fan.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's one thing that my brother did,
Okay.
and I was useless. I went along to the. Do you have the Cubs before the
Uh-huh.
Scouts? Is
Yeah.
that the same in the States?
Yep.
Yeah. So I went to the Cubs.
Yeah.
Luckily, with all my brother's kit on, because if my mum had bought it all, she'd have gone mad. And I went and said my oath or something.
Yep.
Is it the oath that you say at the beginning? Swore in, and maybe went to one or two more,
Yeah.
but missed out, ultimately
Well,
because my brother was off camping
right.
here,
Right.
doing this, that, and the other. He went through from Cubs to Scouts and did that for a while,
Yeah.
but it's something that I never did, and I never did the. We have here, I think it's something called the Duke of Edinburgh
Okay.
Award, which is sponsored by Prince Philip,
Uh-huh.
and that's about kids of at the age of, and I could get this all wrong, but so my third boy is just about to do it, 16ish,
Okay.
15, sorry. Where they go and they do the bronze award, the silver award, and the gold, and
Okay.
it's all about orienteering.
Uh-huh.
Um, I don't know what else they do, but they go out camping
Yeah.
and all this.
Yeah.
But they have to volunteer as well for three
Sure.
months as well,
Yeah. Yep.
on a program. Could be anything. Could
Yep.
be helping the aged.
Hmm.
Could be football. We call it. Sorry,
Yeah. Yeah.
football training. Um, Whatever,
Right.
but it gets them involved, and yeah, I missed out on that. And then, as you say, teenage years kick in,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
and you don't do any of that at all.
Yeah.
Um, so you're still actively involved there, I take it then.
Yeah. My son is kind of aged out um, of the troop program, and there's an older program that he's still a part of, and I'm helping out with. So that sort of that era is diminishing, I'll say. So it's not as active in in that respect, but I'm still finding other ways of getting involved. So helping out with some other units and um, finding other ways to still keep active and support the program. But yeah, I know a little bit about scouting in the UK, and what you're talking about. It's different terminology, but there's a lot of similarities in the program. I mean, worldwide, there's commonalities. It's a worldwide movement, even though locally there's local implementations of the same thing. But um,
Sure.
yeah, there's one aspect of me. I don't know if I'd go so far as to call it regret, about being, when I was younger. Um, I I don't know. It probably depends upon the time of day that you ask me, or sort of how I'm feeling about it. I mean, I look back on all the other things that I was doing at the time. I got really involved in drama and basketball and all sorts of other activities. And I don't regret any of that. Great experiences there as a kid, and great friends that came out of that. And I think in some respects, like a lot of what's where I grew up, um, the as we got into the scouting, like a lot of my friends didn't continue with it, and so when I got into one of the older programs, I didn't know anyone, I wasn't friends with anyone, um, and it just didn't have an appeal to me at the time. Um,
Yeah, it suddenly changes, and it's not the same
Yeah,
sort of thing. So
yeah. And
yeah,
I think that's the thing about the program is like um, is understanding that like it's not for everyone, and that's okay. It's not there to take over the world and, and have everyone conform to to it.
yeah,
It works for some kids and doesn't for others,
yeah,
and it could
yeah.
be
I was the
adaptable.
one it didn't work for.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, it's okay though. There's other things out there to do. Um, but yeah, I also think even for kids that are in the program, like keep in mind that it's not the same for every kid. Every kid's different, and so some kids are going to be so the big award in the U.S. program is the Eagle Scout. That's kind of the crowning achievement of the program, and uh, and so for some kids, that's what they want to do, right? They want to obtain their eagle and become an Eagle Scout. Um, and for some kids, it's like, you know what, I really like camping, or I really like hiking, or whatever, some of those activities, and I want to go to a meeting once a week and kind of hang out with some folks and do some fun things and go out on the weekends and go see some cool places and camp out, but I don't want to go work on all this other stuff. Like, okay, cool. So, let's teach you the basic skills so that you can go camping or you can go hiking or backpacking, some basic first aid and cooking and stuff like that, and get you up to a kind of a basic level that you can do that without hurting someone or someone or yourself.
yeah.
And then you can do that, right? You can just keep doing that for years and build those skills.
And
So
it keeps them happy.
yeah,
Yeah, keeps them
exactly.
happy,
Yeah,
and
it keeps them out of
and
trouble.
I
And
suppose in a way to keep reduces pressure on them if they feel, if you're having to, some people might, yeah, like you say, they might want to go and achieve the big thing, and if
yeah,
everyone had to do that, they'd be like, oh no, this is, some kids might be, this is too much for me.
right.
I couldn't cope with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So I think it's that's a good mentality too. Is just understand. It probably holds true for all sorts of things, not just scouts, but
yeah,
just keeping in mind that hey, every kid's different. So and
yep,
I mean, heck, every person is different, right? So what
totally.
what works for me doesn't may not work for you. That's okay.
No, absolutely. Yeah, I've got, like I say, I got the four kids. I
Yeah.
totally know they're all very different. They're all very
Sure.
different.
Yeah.
They all have their own pros and cons.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And do you have, do you call it the woggle? Do you have the woggles,
Oh
or is
yeah,
that a UK
woggles.
term?
Yeah, yeah,
The
yeah,
woggle?
yeah.
Yeah.
So there's
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, some people will call it like a neckerchief, just a slide, um, and really the woggle is more of it's specifically a knot that you tie, or you can tie, to form that slide. There's a class or I should say training program called Wood Badge, that I took many years ago, and that I've staffed it, for gosh, for 4 years, something like that. Um, and it has its origins in the UK. I don't know if you're familiar with Gilwell Park outside of London. It's a
No,
Gilwell
I'm not.
Field. It, I've been there actually. A couple years ago, I was visiting a customer up near Cambridge, and I got in. I think I got in the day early just to kind of try and acclimate a little bit to the time change, and rented a car. And I got in, midday or something, I guess, and I wasn't supposed to be at the customer site until the next day. So I was like, all right, I'm heading north anyways. I'm gonna go stop by Gilwell Park. It's a big scouting, basically camp north of London. It's still,
Mm,
I mean, it's still
okay.
within kind of the metropolitan area, but it's this
Hmm.
big location. Anyways, it's back in, oh geez, it would be like early 20th century, 1915, 1918, around there, is where
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of the kind of the scouting movement started. Um, and Gilwell Park
Oh,
was like
okay.
one of the original scouting camps. So a lot of the history came from there. The Wood Badge class has a lot of connections back to Gilwell. and like the woggle, you actually have people during the class actually make their own woggle, and we talk about the history of it and the connections back to Gilwell, and so it for people that have taken that class, it can be kind of a special thing, and um, so it was kind of neat to go and visit the place and take. I took a bunch of pictures. um,
Yeah, God, yeah. Why
but
not? I mean, if you're, it's the sort of thing. If that's your interest
right,
and you're over here,
yeah,
it's like go and do it. I'm gonna have to check where it is actually, but visit the Mecca as
yeah,
such,
right.
isn't
It
it?
was kind of yeah, it's kind of that thing, and it was funny because there's a woman I know here who's British, and I mean she grew up scouting there, and she still does scouts here. And I said I was
Mm.
going to go to Gilwell Park, and she was like, "Why would you want to go there? It's a big muddy field." And I'm like, "No, but there's all
Brilliant.
this history, and it. I mean, it's nice. They've actually done a good job of putting up some signs around places, and I stopped in, and I stopped in the main office, and I mean it's a functioning scout camp. They had kids all over the place doing stuff, um, and they were just like, "Oh, okay, yeah. Here's a map. You're welcome to wander."
Yeah,
Um,
go and do your
I was
thing.
like, "Oh, okay. I don't need to like check in or anything." They're like, "Nah, whatever. Have fun." And it was
they're,
nice
they're
too. It was a
completely underwhelmed by it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, for them, it's just like, yeah, this is our camp. This is just,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah.
Um, but it was nice. It was a beautiful sunny day, so it was a nice chance to kind of walk around and see some of the signs and some of the sights, and
Mm.
get a little bit of the history. So
That's,
that was fun.
that's brilliant. I mean, for me, so my thing is when I come to Seattle,
Hmm.
my musical taste is
Oh,
uh, grunge,
yeah,
right? Okay.
yeah,
So when I went to university, Nirvana were big.
yep,
I was into Mudhoney. I
uh huh,
didn't like Pearl Jam that much, but that was my kind of scene, and I
right,
still listened to a lot of the music from
nice,
it.
yeah.
So I also listened to your radio station,
Oh,
KEXP in Seattle.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so that's my go-to station that I listen to every day
uh huh,
when I'm working.
nice.
So when I came across, I was like, okay, I've got to go to the KEXP gathering space down near
Oh,
in
okay,
the Seattle Center. Okay,
yeah,
so that was my thing, and I was telling people. I mean, Rob Marshall came down with
uh huh,
me. We did the tour around around the station,
nice.
but kind of everyone else was kind of like, what, really? But for me, it was like the big thing.
Yeah,
It's
right,
like, and I came away from it. I absolutely loved it. It was great
yeah.
going to it, and then I recommended it to a chap who I did some Raspberry Pi stuff with, who was
Mm.
over. He does work with Amazon,
Okay.
so he was over in Seattle, and I said, "Oh, go and check out KEXP," and he went to the gathering space and shows me a picture of his laptop, and he's got a sticker on there. And I was going, "Hold on a
Nice.
minute, they've got stickers, man! I missed out on that." So the last time we were over, last March, so it's now a pilgrimage for me
Oh
to
yeah.
go, and I was due to go in March again
Yeah.
to visit the gathering space, get a cup of coffee, slice of cake, and I was sat up on the stage, and behind me the DJs have got the glass there, and they can look out. And I don't know if you've ever been to it, but
No.
um, it's cool. I love it, and they've got a little record store corner where they're selling the vinyl,
Nice.
and I'm just chilling, doing that. And I thought this time I've got to get a
A
sticker,
sticker. Yeah, yeah.
and yeah, gotta have the sticker.
Nice.
But
Now, have you
I'm kind of sat there, and well, anyway, on the reception desk, I turned around. I thought that's one of the DJs. I've got to
Nice.
go and talk to her.
Yeah.
So that was my fanboy moment of,
Yeah, yeah.
are you Abby? Yeah, I
Nice.
listen to you on the radio. I'm from the UK.
Well, they've got to love that.
And
Like having a fan in the UK who's come over. Like I don't know. I think that would be kind of cool.
they're massive worldwide. So
Oh, okay.
they've on YouTube, their channel there, over 1 billion
Oh
views.
wow.
They
Okay.
promoted that recently. Yeah,
Yeah.
so they've got all the bands go and play sessions there and stuff. And that's
Oh,
the thing,
okay.
they have concerts in the gathering space, but they also have this intimate recording space.
Nice.
And if you go down in the morning, if there's a band playing at midday or whatever,
Hmm.
go down in the morning, and they get 70 people can go in and watch this thing. You're
Oh,
behind a
cool.
screen,
Yeah.
so the band can't see you, but you kind of it's almost like they're zoo animals, and you're watching them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but but I'm going. So I go, okay, right. I'm over in the summit. What if a band plays that I like.
Right. Do you just get that?
I'm going to have to sack off all the sessions, you know.
I'm sure
And there was
folks would
one due
understand.
to play. Yeah, there was one due to play on Monday, the first Monday. Well, there was only one Monday at the summit. But anyway, didn't happen. But to me, that's my little pilgrimage to go
Right.
back and they actually came to London as well. They had a week in London, and
Oh,
I
cool.
was like, I went to two or three of the gigs, and again I was like, "Hello, my name's Paul. It's me to the DJs." You know, throat's going dry, and they're just like, "Hello," but
Now,
really down to earth. But that's that kind of thing with the rock star approach of us in
exactly.
IT, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
people coming up to us and going, "I can't speak to you. My God, I'm meeting you."
Like,
Crazy.
yeah, yeah. But I think that's why things like understanding what people's interests are, and I mean, heck, things like this, right? Like being able to have a chat about whatever, right? And just understanding that, like, and I think finding that common ground with people. Um, so like I don't think I knew per chance that you were into grunge music. And that was a
Yeah.
I didn't get too deep into it. Like I listened to Nirvana and Pearl Jam, Soundgarden. I didn't get into some of the more maybe eclectic ones. And I wasn't. I mean, I've heard stories of people who like went deep into that scene. um,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, but yeah, that's good to know. And then like that like, oh hey, that's a common ground that we have, right? And so we could probably go talk for another half an hour about different types of music and songs that we like, and so it's a way to
Well,
have
that's what
that
happened
have a
with
connection.
that's yeah. Well, me and Chris Roberts we
Yeah.
chatted about. So we got to this point, and Chris was on for a long time
Hmm.
because he's really into his music, but
Oh,
his
okay.
thing is Britpop. So Britpop was the Oasis era
Oh yeah. Yeah.
in the UK.
Yeah.
Okay, so what happened apparently? It was the UK's backlash to grunge. Okay, so we suffered the Americans for too long, and so grunge just stopped. As soon as Kurt Cobain
Yeah.
killed himself, that was it. Which pretty much happened, I suppose, in the States. But so we had Britpop.
Uh-huh.
He's really into that, and in the on now with lockdown on the internet, there's this thing called the listening party, which is run by a chap called Tim Burgess, who's in a band called the Charlatans,
Okay.
which was a UK band from the late 80s.
Uh-huh.
They were part of the, no, that's probably not part of the Manchester scene, but around that time,
Okay. Hmm.
where the Manchester, I don't know if you know about the Manchester
Sure.
scene of the late 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So they kind of part of that indie
Right.
era.
Right.
So he's on. If you look at his Twitter feed, he's on the Tim Burgess listening parties every night, and they what they have is Tim will curate it, but they'll also have so they'll listen to a whole album the whole way through,
Okay.
which is rare enough these
Right.
days.
Yeah.
We have nothing else to do, so we do it. But he'll have someone from the band. So, for
Oh, nice.
example, yeah, Oasis, for example,
Right.
and they had Bonehead, who's the guitarist or
Okay.
bassist or whatever he is, and he'll tweet at the same time. So he's really on that, and every night I see his Twitter feed's just full of it.
Nice.
It's great though, great. It's what he's into. So we chatted for quite a while about music, but so last night actually I watched a documentary called Hype, which I'd never heard of, and I've watched a few kind of grunge documentaries,
Uh-huh.
and this was on Amazon Prime in the UK,
Okay.
and it was filmed in '96, but
Okay.
it featured a ton of. This really went deep into the grunge thing.
Yeah.
So there were bands I'd never heard of,
Yeah.
or maybe I heard a little bit, but didn't really know anything about
Sure.
them at
Yeah.
all. And then, but what was kind of cool was first up seeing little, oh, there's Pike's Place, I've been there,
Oh.
little things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
My touristy thing going, oh, there's the Space Needle, been up that. But also seeing real, getting nostalgic about it as
Yeah.
well, but real sort of hardcore little venues. And looking back at a time where everything seemed less marketed,
Yeah. Yeah.
Even though grunge did get marketed quite
Sure.
badly, didn't it?
Sure. I mean, that's
But all these, little places where there'd just be stickers all over the walls
yeah,
and posters just slapped on there.
yeah,
You don't get that these days. I find anyway.
yeah. It's a kind of an aspect of the music scene that there was there was probably a pathway. I don't know if you think back in your life of choices that you've made and paths that you could have taken. There probably was a pathway for me uh, from college of more into that world. I was in a band in college. I did a lot of, there was a job that I had actually on campus as I guess, a sound tech in a way. Like it was a group of us who basically the school, the student union had a bunch of equipment. They bought a bunch of equipment, of sound equipment, like actual, big speakers and all of the the mixing equipment and basically it was just for parties, right? So a fraternity could hire us and we'd come set up and we'd play music at their party. Um, but we could do other things if there was a band that wanted to play. We could set up to support that and mix them in and stuff like that. So um, that was a job that I had in college, on the side, and like I said, I was in a band too. So like I could have probably gone down that road if I wanted to, and really gotten a lot deeper into the underworld music scene. But
Mm.
not a path that I chose. So it's
So what was your instrument then, Aaron?
drums.
Oh, you're a drummer.
Yeah, I was.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. I know your character then. I've worked you out. No. My second boy is learning drums.
Nice.
We bought him some drums at
Oh,
Christmas.
okay. How's that going?
Jesus. Wow, they're loud, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. I know.
I
Yeah,
knew they were going to be.
as a kid, I didn't like to play, at least at home. I didn't like to practice if anyone was home. So I would always wait for, like, for family to leave, or on, at times where I was home alone, so I could just rail on them and
Go
not worry
mental.
about. Yeah. And even now, like, I've got a kit here that I don't play enough. But it's kind of the same thing. It's just like, there's odd occasion where I'm home alone and no one else is around. I'm like, all right, neighbors, you're on your own for a little bit. And my daughter's and they're actually in her room right now because she wanted to learn how to play them, and she still does, but I think it's the noise aspect is she's worried about the noise, and you've got some dampeners that you can use, but it's just not quite the same. So, um, do
Yeah.
you do you play?
So I play guitar,
Okay.
badly. So I learnt. Yeah, my eldest, who's now coming up to 20,
Uh,
he was about 7, I think, or 6 or 7, when he started doing some guitar
okay.
lessons. And I rocked up as the dad, taking him
Hmm.
to the lessons, and said to the tutor, Ben, I said, do you know what? I've always wanted to learn how to play. Is it all right if I sit in on the lessons
Right.
and we learn together? And he said,
Nice.
yeah, yeah, cool. So my eldest had dropped out after a few
Uh,
weeks. But he plays viola.
okay.
He went to the Trinity Music College,
Oh
which is
yeah.
kind of big in the UK. It's
Yeah.
just down the road from us
Hmm.
in Greenwich, and he learned all the way through the grade system right to the top level.
Cool.
And he's really into his classical music and big band and all this
Nice.
jazz, everything. Very eclectic, and because he's learned all this, he can just pick up a guitar and play it as if he's a master. And he's
Oh
not, he's
yeah.
not, when I say a master, he's just, wipes the floor with what I can do
Right.
because
Right.
he's got the dexterity in his fingers, whereas I picked it up at an age that was too old, I think. Because
Right.
I'm just, and I said this to someone the other day on one of the podcasts, I'm just overthinking everything. Yeah. I'm looking at my left hand and I'm looking at my right hand. They're doing separate things, and I'm
Yeah.
going, right, okay, now change to this chord, and now,
Yeah.
So, but I've stopped playing it, but I picked it up again during lockdown,
Hmm.
so that's cool. So
Yeah.
I'm getting back. The callus is coming back on the fingers and all this. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I bought myself a guitar. Geez, too many years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, maybe. And I was like, I'm going to teach myself how to play guitar. Like I've always wanted to. And it's, I, if I really want to do it, I need to go with the route you did and pay for some lessons, because doing it by yourself, it's just, there's not the, uh, I don't know, there's wasn't
the
the
incentive
drive.
isn't as yeah,
Yeah.
but also as you if you're a parent, it's finding the time.
Right. Yeah.
So when so you pick it up at the end of the night, and you gotta find it. They're all in bed,
Right.
and you pick it up, and then my wife's shouting down, "Can you stop playing that? They're gonna wake them up,"
Right.
So when the hell can I play this thing? So it was really hard to fit it in.
Yeah.
And I've got a couple of acoustics, and I've got a really awful electric guitar that I bought off a chap called Chris, who I used to work with, for 50 quid. It is terrible,
Yeah.
terrible, terrible guitar. But that was one thing actually. I went to Mopop in the Seattle Center.
I was gonna ask if if you had a chance to go. Uh-huh.
Yeah, yeah,
How
and
was
they've
that?
got the rooms where you can go in and
Oh,
play,
right.
and I was
Yeah,
able
right.
to,
Upstairs.
yeah, just able to crank it out and just
Nice.
pick it up. And there's these huge Marshall amps, and I've got the guitar and on the electric, and thinking
Yeah.
I need to buy myself a decent electric. So, yeah. But yeah, the museum was cool actually because that fitted in again with all the whole grunge era thing,
Right, right. Yeah.
and it had some sci-fi stuff.
Yeah, yeah. They usually have, I think I think Mopop is the current name. They changed the name at one point, uh, to be more, because I think it used. Oh, that's right. It used to be the EMP, the something music experience or something like that. And then they changed it. I think now it's Mopop. I think it's right, because it's like the Museum of Popular Culture or something. So there's still a big music element, but um, because they had started adding those exhibits for like science fiction. There was a horror one once. They had a Lego exhibit come through, which was pretty cool. Um, I know they had. It's been a couple years since I've been there and gone through the exhibits, but they did have a big Nirvana exhibit. I think
Yeah,
that might be a
still
permanent.
there.
Okay, yeah,
So yeah, and then they had Pearl Jam and Nirvana.
okay,
So like I say, I wasn't a Pearl Jam fan, but I still went round that because
yeah.
I went to a museum without my kids.
You can stop and look at stuff.
Reading things, yeah, it's like, oh, I've got a minute to chill.
Right, right.
So I was thinking, right, I'm not only am I going to read it, I'm going to have OCD here and read absolutely bloody
Everything.
everything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I went through it all, and it was cool.
Yeah.
And then going downstairs into the basement, it was the sci-fi thing,
Yeah.
and so I'm a bit of a sci-fi fan.
Uh-huh.
Uh, but it was like, oh, there's the original Mork and Mindy outfit that Robin Williams
Yeah,
wore. Oh, there's an original alien suit and
yeah.
all this. And I took a photograph of. I'm not a fan of The Walking Dead, but my second boy is
Uh-huh.
or was, and I took a picture of some heads that were in like a fish tank.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Didn't know anything about it, and he went, "Oh my god, that's from it's from series 2 or whatever." Yeah,
Right. He
so
knew
it was
exactly what
like,
it was. Yeah.
"Have you seen that?"
Yeah.
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 So yeah, that's a pretty cool thing. But yeah, if it, I said to someone else, if I could go back in time, and not do IT, I'd love to have been, learning guitar as a kid,
Right.
and then doing stuff like, maybe session playing or something
Yeah.
like that,
Yeah.
touring the world. Maybe I'd have hated it, but
It's okay to
given that
dream.
option again,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's not going to happen now. So yeah, live the dream in my
Yeah.
head. So what's your musical taste then, Aaron?
They're actually pretty varied. I kind of listen to all sorts of different things. I you know I'll My core base is hard rock, and that's really anything from grunge to heavy metal to, I don't know, just kind of your run of the mill hard rock kind of stuff. But I mean, I branch out to lots of different things. right now I'm listening to a band called Nothing But Thieves. My daughter turned me on to. She's listening to a lot of newer stuff. This is a band that I don't know. They've got kind of a heavier sound, which is probably why I like it. But we were sitting around playing a game last night and put on a mix of music that had it had some salsa, it had some Michael Bublé kind of stuff, um, some older jazz, some classic stuff. Um, I
So
listened
you're getting
to.
eclectic in your older age, yeah?
I mean, I've always kind of like my growing up. My parents listened to a lot of jazz, uh, classical music, musical theater. I mean, so that was kind of what I grew up with, and and they're all styles that I like. So there's really like I don't listen to. It's really easier to talk about what I don't listen to. I mean, I don't listen to rap. I don't listen to country. But like I'll do bluegrass. Like I like bluegrass. If you're familiar with that. So yeah,
So rap for me was a big thing when, growing up in the north of England,
uh-huh.
rap was massive. No, not
Yeah,
really, I'm joking. But I got into it in the late 80s.
uh-huh.
So, the Def Jam records, all this
Right,
kind of
right,
stuff hit.
right.
And took that through to university. And that's when the indie grunge influence kicked in.
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
And rap got discarded. But then
Yeah.
I started listening to it again in the mid 90s
Uh-huh.
for a bit, but hardly at all now. But it's interesting the other day. So my third boy is really, well, my second and third boy are really into the rap stuff at the
Yeah.
moment. And I went upstairs and my third boy said, "You've heard of A Tribe Called Quest?" And I went, "Yeah." It's like, "You're an old fart. Why the hell do you know?" Um, I said, "Look downstairs at the vinyl. There's tons of it down there."
Yeah, nice.
And he did, suddenly, oh, maybe I got some kudos from a teenage kid. Who knows?
Have you had that moment
Oh,
yet where your kid's listening to a song and and you're like, "Oh, this is a cover of such and such." And they're like, "What are you talking about? This is their
yeah.
new song." I'm like, "No, no, 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 no. This is a classic song. This has been done
Yeah.
before. This is not an original."
Yeah, totally. The one that I remember recently was actually did was Aha big in the States? Take
Oh,
on
sure.
Me
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
from the 80s. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
there was some kind of awful song that used that kind of the chorus from that,
Okay.
sampled that or changed it or whatever.
Yeah.
But because I knew this song already, you know, it was an 80s classic, that
Yeah.
one, really,
Yeah.
if you're into that kind of
Oh, yeah.
thing. And because that was around the time of, Duran Duran and all this
Yeah, yeah.
kind of stuff around
Yep.
that era, wasn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, my wife and I we're big 80s fans too, so we'll listen to a lot of, your kind of classic 80s pop.
Yeah. Just, I'm trying to picture that. It's not what I would have thought or expected from you, but it's interesting because, like, I think, like you say, it's what you don't listen to that you could probably
Right. Yeah.
say
Lift
name
off more.
name more so than
Yeah.
what you do.
There's
Yeah.
the other thing that I really like, and there's a couple of bands that do it more than others, but is groups that will um, do a cover of some classic song, right? But they do it in their own style. So it's if you hear like someone does a cover of something, so like Weezer had an album recently where it was like all covers, right? They had one of Toto's Africa, and
Oh, okay.
it was it was like it sounded almost the same as the original. And I guess that there's a musical challenge there of like, hey, can we play this song and make it sound like the original? Um, and so maybe there's something interesting in that. But is that really more interesting for the band, or is it more interesting for us? And what I really enjoy is, um, yeah, do a cover of a song, but do it in a different style. So there's they're kind of ska, kind of punk, kind of all sorts of stuff called Real Big Fish, and and you made me think of it when you said, "Aha!" They do a cover of "Take on Me," but it's this kind of ska version of it. And I like the band a lot because they actually do a lot of covers in different styles, just all sorts of crazy stuff. But then there's a vocalist and pianist. He's British, named Jamie Cullum, who does
Oh yeah.
his original stuff is mostly jazz, but he'll do covers of pop stuff, and it's just, I don't know, it's just really kind of cool, different covers of pop, of current pop stuff. So he did like there's a Rihanna cover, Rihanna cover that he does, but it's just this kind of like slow jazz vibe that's just kind of funky. So yeah, that's one thing that I really like is that adapting something into a different style.
Yeah, yeah. I've seen him play live actually.
Have you? Yeah, we saw him. I think just one time in DC, which was just amazing show. He's so good live.
Yeah, I saw him at a festival,
Uh
so I
huh.
was actually there to see the Pixies.
Okay.
That's who I'd gone to see. I think he was on first, but he got the crowd going.
Yeah.
And it was different,
Yeah.
for I think who else played? What's his name? Pharrell
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Williams.
Uh huh.
He played, but thinking of uh, sort of not cheesy songs, but songs that are changed or covered by a band.
Hmm.
One that myself and a friend of mine, Phil, would recommend would be a cover of Tiffany's "I Think We're Alone Now"
Oh, nice.
by a UK band called Snuff, who just play guitars very thrashy and quick.
Yeah.
So that's one to check out on
Nice.
YouTube. It's just very noisy. Yeah, Tiffany. That's the epitome of cheesy
Oh yeah.
US pop, isn't it?
Yep.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah,
So
fantastic stuff.
there's a speaking of which, there's a guy. His first name is Leo, and I can't remember his last name now. But if you search for Frog Leap Studios, is the name of his I don't know, his studio or whatever. Um, he does heavy metal covers of anything. They're mostly pop stuff, but it's kind of funny. And I mean, he's a really excellent musician. It looks like he plays he'll do these videos too that go along with them. And it's just like thrash metal covers of pop songs. And he'll do ones. He's got kids, or I think just one kid. But he did like a Disney, oh, what's the one from Frozen? Let It Go. Um,
Oh God, yeah.
but he does it. He's in his daughter's room, and so he's like using her little toy drum set. Um, and that's just for the video. I mean, he recorded it with his real instruments, but just literally screaming, "Let it go." And it's really funny. So he's one that I like. Again, just because of that change in style for songs that you know really well, but he just puts a different spin on it.
Well, I like the way that it gives you the ability to listen to a cheesy song from the past, but give it some kind of credibility if you're
Right.
into kind of alternative music.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
again, so a cover of ABBA's "Dancing Queen." I mean,
Uh-huh.
gosh, by this was on. Have you heard of the UK DJ John Peel?
No,
You've
I don't
heard of
think
this
so.
guy?
No.
No. So John Peel was massive in the UK for
Uh-huh.
playing lots of alternative music, and he kind of got known worldwide, but not massively so. So he was kind of a bit of a cult figure
Yeah.
in the UK and beyond. So he used to have these things called Peel sessions or whatever, but he'd also get loads of real weird alternative tracks. And so this particular session, a band called Cheese did this version of Dancing Queen by ABBA, and it just got really slowed down and just awful singing. But I always remembered it. And I was like, oh, yeah, I remember that. And then, 20 years later, I managed to somehow get hold of it on the internet, as you do. So I've managed to grab that. But I think even that is still tricky to find, but I managed to get an MP3 of it and save it off somewhere. Yeah,
Is
but it
it
allowed me to listen to an ABBA recording without being having the mic taken out of me for doing so. Yeah,
yeah. You said it was
with some
cheese?
credibility. Cheese with a Z. I think
Oh,
it might.
okay.
Cheese and an E on the end. It's awful. It is an awful song. But at the time, I was like, oh, cool. I can listen to this.
It made me think of there's a guy named Dick Cheese, or maybe Richard Cheese.
Great.
It's spelled,
Yeah.
spelled cheese with an S, SE at the end. But he does these like um, lounge act covers. So like real schmaltzy, kind of swingy kind of stuff, of some popular songs, which
Does he kind of ham it up a bit? Does he
oh,
kind of
totally.
takes
Yeah,
the
yeah,
mickey?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So somewhere I've got a CD of his, of doing this, and it's amusing to listen to. It's not the sort of thing I would listen to on a regular basis. It's
Yeah.
just very much more of a kitsch kind of thing. I'm not sure if he's even still doing stuff, because it's like how you can only do that for so long, I would think, before it kind of wears off. But
Yeah, for sure. I'll tell you what then. Before we wrap up, I'm going to ask you a question.
sure.
What's the most embarrassing record in your collection? It's one of those you would never normally admit to.
Yeah. Um, well, so my first, although I don't know if I still have it. My first impulse was Milli Vanilli. Um, but honestly,
They
I
were
don't
great.
know if I actually still have it. That might have been one that I let
Just
go at
gave
some
it
point,
away.
which
Yeah.
but I might have also, because it's the sort of thing that I listen to Milli Vanilli. I'm not ashamed to say it. Uh, I put I created a Spotify playlist for rain. So just a bunch of different songs that talk about rain or raining or stuff like that. And so I included the Milli Vanilli's "Blame It on the Rain," and it came on. We were listening to it one night, and my wife just gave me this look, just like, really, like, it's a great song,
Yeah.
So
Uh,
yeah, that
I'll
might
check that
be
one out.
that might be it,
Check that
it
on vinyl, did you, at the time? Yeah.
I heard you say that you have a lot of vinyl. Like, I grew up listening to vinyl. My parents, like, their whole collection was vinyl. I was a CD kid. I mean,
Right.
I
Right.
had a good collection of tapes. I mean, that's kind of where I started, was with tape. And like my wife, we did mixtapes all through college, and but it was really CDs. I mean, I've got stacked. They're feet away from me right now, just stacks and stacks of CDs. I mean, I had it's, I don't know, 800 discs or something. It's a huge
Wow.
collection of CDs. I never really got into vinyl. I just think growing up with them, it was funny. Growing up listening to vinyl, we would actually we would get so used to the scratches that it just kind of became part of how we would sing the song.
Comes part of the song. Yeah.
and then
You're
and then
waiting for a jump, aren't you?
Yeah, like you switch the
you know.
CD finally, and you're like, oh, there isn't this little hiccup in the middle of the song there.
Yeah. Yeah.
It sound weird. How about you? What's your guilty?
Oh, what the
What,
most? Jesus. Do you know what? I was looking through my records only yesterday, and I was picking out so many that I was just going, "Oh my god, I can't believe I bought this." Um, uh, oh god, I'm trying to think. So I've got an album by Kylie Minogue's sister, Danni Minogue.
oh, who knew?
Do you know who Kylie
I
Minogue
know Kylie
is?
Minogue. Yeah, I didn't know she had a
Right,
sister.
yeah. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So it was kind of that thing. I probably bought it based on her looks more than her records,
Oh yeah, sure, sure.
on a thing. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? I don't even know what it's called. I might play it tomorrow.
Well, now here's one
But
that actually I know along those same lines. I know that I have, and not just have one. I have two of Paula Abdul's albums. I have both her first Forever. I think it's called Forever Your Girl, and her second, which I think is called Vibology or something. It's something like that. Which
is that the one with Straight Up on it?
that would be
One
the
of
first
those.
one. Was Straight Up. Yeah, Straight Up. I think
First
was on
one,
the
yeah,
first
Straight
album.
Up.
Yeah,
And
and
it's any hits you had here in the UK.
so very much probably bought more for the appearance. I actually had I remember as a kid. I don't know if this was a common thing for you, but common in my age group growing up is putting posters and other things all over your walls as a kid. And one of my I had a big Paula Abdul poster. I was a bit of a Paula Abdul fan.
Yeah. No, I think it was an era of complete cheese, wasn't it? So I suppose it didn't really matter. You're at that age where you buy this stuff and then you look back at it because you suddenly change your taste or whatever.
Yeah.
When you find real music, and you just go, oh my god! I mean, I had a Tina Turner album. But what's love got to do with it? I think that album, I bought that. I haven't got it anymore.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I was looking through and I was thinking that a lot of these have gone missing. And my brother's still into a lot of this stuff. So whether he's nicked it, I don't know.
Yeah.
Or I might have just sold it, taken it down to the market as a student and said, get rid of this. This is just too embarrassing. And
need a little
please
extra
give me money. And yeah, and they give you nothing, but it allows you to go out and drink in a few nights.
Exactly.
And that's all that matters.
Yeah. And I think that's probably what happened to that Milli Vanilli album was in a stack of stuff that I was just like, all right, I'm just going to get rid of this. But then I've gotten to this age now where it's become a little more nostalgic, and I'm like, oh, I thought I had that album. No, oh, that's right. I probably sold it.
Probably a good thing about the Milli Vanilli one. So that's
I don't know. There's a bit of a nostalgic aspect of like, putting it on, listening to it once, and then be like, yeah, all right. There's a reason I got rid of that, but I could at least listen.
Well,
you should go put on your. Go put on your
Danni Minogue on.
Yeah, your Danni Minogue. There you go.
Yeah.
For old time's sake.
Have a look at the cover and go, that's why I bought it. Lovely, Aaron. It's been a real pleasure chatting to you today.
Yeah, thanks for doing it.
No, it's cool. It's cool. We've gone way over what I expected again, and I'm not going to edit it, so it's all going to go out. Milli Vanilli, I can't even say it. Milli Vanilli and all.
And all, yeah.
All the controversy around them. We'll go on about that another time. But yeah, it's been a blast. And so, if people want to follow you on the socials, what do they need to do? Where do they need to go?
Primarily Twitter for my work persona, I'll say. Twitter is definitely the spot for that. So it's just Aaron Czechowski on Twitter, full name.
Yeah, I had a look at that. Actually, you've got quite a few followers on there.
A couple, yeah.
Real rock.
I've been successful. Yeah, I've been fortunate in that respect. Yeah.
You have to get a little blue tick soon. Yeah.
Oh,
cool.
We'll see.
Well, I appreciate you coming on board, and also the fact that I understand you've got to get on with work as well. It's 9:30 at night for me, but it's still a work day for you. So
it is, yeah.
Need to let you
go grab a bite of lunch and then get back to it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Take care.
All right. Yeah, you too.